So good to see you this Labor Day weekend. And today is going to be a little bit different live stream. It's going to be a little bit more interactive because I have a very important and special guest. We're definitely going to get to the questions that you've been asking me in the comments section about modular homes, manufactured homes, and traditional stick-built homes. But we're also going to have a featured special guest that's coming in to talk specifically about roofs, your roof, how it affects your home purchase, and how it affects your home in general. So we're going to be getting to that in a minute. I do want to say a special thank you to everybody that's come in right at the beginning, and that would be Urban Explorer, Retro Rebel, and Jules Soren, and of course Eddie Smallhorn. So thank you so much for popping in at the very beginning. If you guys have any questions throughout the stream, please be sure to go ahead and throw those in the chat section. Just label it as question and then the question that you have, so that way I can see it on the screen a lot easier. I'm on a different little program here, so it's a little bit more difficult for me to find those. Hello, Tech for Your Needs. Good to see you. Good to see you. And I hope you guys are enjoying your Labor Day. I know 2020 has turned into a year that really, Labor Day is probably not really the same as it used to be, but I'm sure you're making the best of it. I chose to clean my house. Super riveting stuff. Hey there, Design to the Nines. So without further ado, I'd like to welcome my special guest that's actually here today to talk to us about roofing. And the reason we're talking about roofing is it affects, that is like basically the foundation, other than the foundation of your house. There's two things that you really need to worry about, is the foundation and the roof. And it's imperative to keep that up. A lot of people let that go over a period of time until they see a stain on the wall. So he's going to be talking to us a little bit about roofs. He's been in the roofing business now for just over a year, and he's learned a lot. So he's willing to share that with you. So come on in, Eddie. This is my husband, Eddie Smallhorn, and I'm going to show you these. He showed me these pictures and I'm like, oh, you have to share that with my subscribers. So the first thing is Hello, this is Eddie.
That's me.
That's Eddie. I'll push over a little bit. There you go. Okay, so this is the house that he went and saw yesterday. He went and saw this house. It's a manufactured home that's not too far from us. And the real estate agent asked if he would do just a review of the roof. She could see from the ground level that there were some issues. So he went ahead and did a full inspection, and he took some photos. So we're going to be going over those photos and showing you exactly what he found and why it's so important for you to do your own inspection, or at least have somebody come out there and inspect it. How often, Eddie?
I would always ask for an inspection at least every 5 to 10 years, or just at least inspect it. As a homeowner, if you can get up there on a ladder, even on the eaves, just take a look. You can do some visual inspection and take a look at what's going on that roof and get a good view of it. So
you're going to give us a little education of what it is.
I think.
Yeah. All right, here it is. Okay, so here's the first picture.
So always when I get on a roof, I will get in, usually try not to look for gutters to put my ladder on. And of course, make sure I'm OSHA safe, 3 rungs up, a fourth of the way back out on the ladder. But then what I'll do is I look right at the drip edge where the shingles meet the drip edge, because what I'm looking for is the very first thing, which is on eaves. And what I mean by eaves is if you look at a front porch where it's flat, you'll see the underlayment should be over that drip edge. The underlayment is basically on a usual houses, they're felt paper, usually they're 15-pound or 30-pound felt paper, and they act as a second layer underneath the shingles. So you're going to see why that's important in a little bit. And in this house, you can actually see, I'm pulling up the shingles, and you can see that go back to that one shot. I'm sorry. Mm-hmm. You can see that the felt paper is underneath the drip edge, which is not something you want to do. And I'll show you why in a little bit.
Okay. Well, I'm going to go back to us real quick.
Oh, back to me.
Yeah, back to you. So there is already a question.
Okay.
So it said, what should the state of the roof be prior to installing solar panels?
Personally, me, I'd never put solar panels on. But I understand the reasoning. So if you go in New Orleans, there's a huge amount of solar panels there. Solar panels are excellent, but at the same time, they do wreak havoc on your roof. Because again, what you're trying to do is limit the amount of point of entry where water can get in.
Water intrusion.
And if you put solar panels, think about every one of those panels are a point of intrusion for water.
I'll tell you another thing about solar panels too, is that a lot of times those are leased equipment. So when you go to sell your house, you're going to have to also sell that lease to the people that are purchasing your house. So a lot of times you end up not having as many buyers or be interested in your house because they don't want to buy that lease. And it can be kind of pricey. So that is one other thing to think about before you decide to get solar panels. As lovely as solar panels are, and I think they've come a long way, I don't think we're quite there yet to get them where they're actually useful to a buyer enough that they would demand that in a house. It would be like a feature that would make it more sellable. And like Eddie said, it does cause that I've seen so many that they literally cause the roof to leak. They cause them to leak.
And I'll say this, actually, this is how much I'm not against solar panels. There's companies out there that do make solar panel tiles. So basically the shingles themselves are solar panels.
Wicked pricey.
They're wicked pricey, but they work. I know we installed one. It was a GE version. We had done it on one side of the house and then matched the shingles through the rest of it. So I've seen it and it actually looks good. And again, causes less versions, less ability for water to get into. If I was going to do it, I would do it on a new roof.
Yeah, brand new.
Just because of the fact that you just had all that done. But remember, if there's any repairs that need to be done, the solar panels have to come off in that area.
Now, I'm asking you is if someone put on a new roof and you gave them a warranty and then somebody, then they went ahead and got solar panels, does that void their warranty?
It does void that warranty.
That's what I thought. Yep. I thought that for
sure.
It
voids it completely because, again, you're drilling into it.
Okay, so this is the next picture, which I thought was the most alarming. All right, tell us about this, because to me it looks like, oh my gosh, these things are crumbling.
Well, it is. So as you can see, the roof itself is aged. It's probably anywhere between 15 and 20 years, if I'm to guess, right around the 15-year mark on a 3-tab shingle roof, which we can go over the difference between 3-tab and architectural. But right here, you can see the importance of having that underlayment over, especially on the eaves, over the drip edge. Because again, if there's water that's able to get underneath the shingles themselves, that underlayment is the next layer of protection for you. We don't use 30 or 15 pound felt. We actually use synthetic. And synthetic seems to wick the water off easier, kind of like a Tyvek paper. You wouldn't wrap your house with felt paper, you'd wrap it with Tyvek, which is kind of the same thing as a synthetic. It's obviously there's some differences, but it wicks it better and wicks it off the
You're kind of talking over my head.
the OSB, the plywood.
Yeah, you're talking like you got to talk in layman's terms, like nobody knows what you're talking.
It acts as a second protection.
Okay, thank you, because you're like the underlayment, blah blah blah.
Sorry.
Yeah, like you talk to me like I don't.
And Urban Explorer did talk about in the UK there is more tile. Yes, there is more slate roofs than there are shingle roofs.
And in Florida they have tile roofs. That's a
Spanish
thing.
tile.
Yeah, Spanish tile. That thing freaking.
And you
cracks.
see them here.
But the thing is that when we have hurricanes here, so when those things, like one goes, then a whole like it's like a sweater that unravels.
So the thing with Spanish tile and like slate roofs, there's less and less people working on those now.
Yeah.
So it's harder to find people that do them. So
I just realized I have a humongous pimple on my face.
Hey, you got a pimple on your face.
Hi everybody! Look, it's Kristina's pimple. Anyways, let's go to this picture.
Okay. So then when you go in the back, these are the things that you're looking for, and you can possibly look for when you see a ladder, when you get up there on a ladder. You can see where the transition flashing is coming from the shingle onto a metal roof or a patio. You see where it's lifted up right there. You see where it's lifted up? That's space where water can get into. That's what you're looking for, those kinds of things.
Oh, I'm trying to like answer some comments while you're talking there. So, all right. So we're going to go back to these other pictures. We'll go back to
So somebody put on there, go metal. metal roof. Go back to the chat real quick.
Okay.
So, metal for a roof. I can agree, but they also have their issues too.
Every roof. Ask. Oh,
I know Paul Peck.
Paul Peck drywall and his metal roof.
So metal roofs are great. Our panel, which is one.
I'm hiding my zip behind the.
I'm sure they love to hear that. So an R panel usually has exposed screws there, and so if you look at a metal roof and you see exposed screws, those are nice, but every 10 years you got to change those screws out because they have a little rubber gasket underneath that seals it from the hole that it's made. And every 10 years, you got to replace those because it gets beat up or whatever. Then they have what's called a standing seam, which covers it. But the problem is if I have a leak over on one side, I have to rip up all those panels going over, fix the leak, and then I got to put brand new panels down. Because once you break the where it seals over, it's done.
Okay. Let's look at this one because this was another one I was like, ew.
So again, this is... Like I'm telling you, if you put your underlayment under the drip edge, what can happen is this.
What is underlayment, first of all?
So your underlayment is right there, your 15-pound felt.
What is it, though?
So it's something that you put on before you put the shingles.
Oh, so it's like some kind of like paper or something?
So the felt paper is like construction paper dipped in tar. That's always what I like to use as an example. It's construction paper dipped in tar. The new synthetic one, you can't rip it, you can't do
so
any
it's
of
like
that. It's
rubber.
Like yeah, it's almost like rubber.
Okay, well, 30-day review says shouldn't ever leak through because it's metal. Well, where you put the metal together. When
you put holes in metal,
yeah, that causes intrusion.
Water.
So you have to have those rubber gaskets around the screws in order for the water to not get through. But there's people that put these together. Ask Paul Peck Drywall about his roofing experience with metal roofs. You have to get the right people that know what they're doing in order to get the proper metal roofs. I've even seen it in brand new construction, brand new, like no one's ever even lived in the house, and we're doing the inspection, and it was put together totally incorrectly, and they already had leaks in the roof. And no one had ever even lived in the house. Just because it's metal, and of course metal doesn't, have water intrusion, doesn't mean that if it's not installed correctly, you're not gonna have some massive issues.
Yes, trust me, we've seen all. You can also go to. Did you do?
I want to do this one really quick. Okay.
So in I would say mobile homes and modular homes, but this isn't even stick-built homes. With 3-tab shingles, you do have a life expectancy of, and I know they say 20 years, it's 10 to 15, especially in South Louisiana, where we get an extreme amount of sun. We get, cool winters, and then we get rained on a lot. So 3-tab shingles usually last about 3 to 15 years. And you can see on this... 10 to 15. Sorry,
I was going to say 3.
10 to 15 years. I said 10 earlier. So you can see right here where this roof itself has received a lot of wind damage. Especially when you see shingles that are torn, ripped off. It's a good sign of wind damage. Because wind is the one that does it.
Yeah, well... But most houses currently today are built with architectural shingles, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And why is that better? Why are they considered better and last longer than a 3-tab shingle?
So actually architectural shingles are called laminate because they are 2-ply. So you have one piece and then you have a second piece, and they're kind of glued together. And wherever you see that marking, when you put a shingle on, there's like a marker, like a chalk line, or like Owens Corning has this little piece that runs across, fabric that runs across, and that's where you're supposed to nail. Okay. That is where, and the reason why they're telling you to nail there, that's where you have both pieces
connected together,
together, and that gives that 3D effect, that layering effect. Okay. Those usually last. I've seen them in South Louisiana last as little as 20 years, but they can last up to 25. I know they say 30. Unless if I'm in prime conditions like California, where I barely have any, humidity, heat, rain, or anything else, and it's 80 degrees at all times, it's not going to last.
Yep. All right, we're going to go to this last picture and then Eddie's going to be on his way.
I'm on my way.
I've seen these in home inspections. I'm going to click off this. I see these in home inspections all the time because whenever I go to a home inspection, they always mention these things, and they always end up getting so dented. First of all, what causes them to dent so poorly, so much, even when there's no trees around? And secondly of all, why is this an issue?
So these are power vents, not one of my favorite. This is a type of power vent. Again,
what's a power vent?
A power vent. So in a roof, you have to, the roof has to breathe, I like to say. Mm-hmm. It has to inhale. So it usually comes in from the soffits when you look at a house. The air comes in and then it has to leave somewhere. So a power vent is a way for the air to leave. Mm-hmm. It has a motor in it. Mm-hmm. The motor goes out. Okay. The motor breaks. The motor does whatever. Right. So when it fails, then where's that air going? Mm-hmm. It's not moving.
Is this the same as wind turbines?
So you have a turbine, which is done by a ball bearing, and it moves around. Wind comes in from inside, and it moves it around.
Okay, so that doesn't require a motor?
No.
Okay, so these are different.
Yes.
Okay.
These actually have a motor in it, and it pulls the air from inside the attic and throws it out. Okay. Why it gets dented like that, I have no clue. And this home had no trees near it, so all three of them were dented.
I'm thinking that probably like some kind of storm damage must have hit it, like
what, a branch jumped from the road into the house.
We've had some tornadoes right there,
but I've seen more and more of those. So the way usually
is it a thin, crappy material?
They're soft metal, and when you look for hail damage, that's the first place you're looking is in those or like a heat stack, because they'll have little dents in them.
Animals. Somebody says animals.
That's a heck of an animal. Like I've seen squirrels chew on things, but I've never seen an animal do that. But I have seen a dog climb a roof.
Here's another question real quick.
Okay.
Is there a difference than an attic fan?
So an attic fan kind of does the same thing. It kind of allows the air. Usually an attic fan is towards like what they usually see as in a gable. A gable is where the roof kind of meets at a point, and then on the side it's a gable. They'll usually do it as a gable vent or something like that. Jerry says it was a squirrels. That is some kind of squirrels. Yeah. And by the way, squirrels lately, I always see that squirrels chew on lead pipes. Lately, well, I've seen one chew on PVC pipe. Oh. I've never seen that before.
Oh. We had a roof in Florida, and we didn't have a leak. But these squirrels had made a full-on feast out of our roof. We were lucky in the fact that we never had a leak. But once they got in there and had to remove the shingles in the roof, they were like, these squirrels have been like having a parade on your roof. So...
So is there any other questions?
All right. So if anybody doesn't have any other questions for Eddie, I'm going to move him on his way, and I'm going to move towards the questions that you had in my comment sections of my videos. Most of these questions are actually from manufactured homes, but if you have any questions about any type of home that you have, whether it be manufactured, mobile, modular, or just a traditional stick-built home, please put them in the comment section. I will definitely answer. Just put question first and then your question. Yeah, squirrels in the hall. Wow. Squirrels in hail. Yeah, hail will do it.
Hail will.
Yeah, hail will definitely do it. How's it going, Adam? Adam's a frequenter on my community posts. Ah. Yeah, he likes my community posts.
The Urban Explorer put one on there. What's the best roof to have, Eddie? For ease, it's a shingle roof. For aesthetics, well, that's up to you. But a shingle or a metal roof. I mean, I am
for partial. Your next home. Would you get a metal roof or a shingle? I want shingles.
I like metal.
Oh, he likes metal.
I do like metal.
They're so expensive, though.
I do like metal. I am partial to metal. But shingle roofs, the nice thing about a shingle roof is that if I have something wrong with that roof, I can fix it at that spot and I don't have to replace a lot of it.
All right. Well, thank you, Eddie.
And me again, Dave. The centipede log's doing very fine.
All right.
Thank you very much.
We can.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, and we move along. Oh, open that door for a hot second. Kind of wave that door because it's hot. It's hot. It's so hot. I will say that we've been lucky here in Louisiana. We actually had a cool front, and we're now down to 89 degrees and a lot less humidity. So I feel like, we're almost about ready to break out the sweaters. Everybody says metal's noisy, Eddie. That's what he said.
Love noise.
Love noise, he says.
No, it's not if you insulate it.
All right, so let's go and get into some of the questions that you've had in my comments section. So this was one that actually came in from one of my community posts. So I'm going to go ahead and put that one first. Oop, I'll move myself over here. This is Chef Brooklyn, and Chef Brooklyn is always commenting and everything. So Chef says, I have 2 home questions. First question is, when I look to buy land to build a home on or move a mobile home on, how can I find out whether or not you will have internet services, especially if moving to a rural area? Second question, before purchasing land and moving into an already built home, where can you go to research the crime rate and statistics? Well, the crime rate and statistics is on several websites. All you have to literally do is put in the city name in Google and put in crime rate and statistics. Not only that, Zillow.com and all the major websites, you type in any address and they'll have a whole breakdown of crime. You can also contact your local real estate agent that will give you a full report of that they gather from a site. Nobody's doing this. It's just statistics and numbers. It's not there's no prejudice to any of this. It's just statistics and numbers. So they just pull up that report and they send it to you. You can ask anybody. As far as internet service, you're going to have to call all the internet providers in that local area. You can just go to the gas station and say, who provides internet around here? And then call them and ask them if they would be able to locate there, because sometimes literally the line will stop right before that house. I've seen that happen, especially out in Livingston Parish. So, you can get internet service. Sometimes it's going to be a little trickier than others. I've seen it where people get like this AT&T, almost like a satellite dish type of internet. It's terrible. It's awful. I don't care what people say. It's terrible. But I know it can be tough, especially to get high speed internet, and you're going to need it. And a hotspot isn't going to cut it. I don't care what they say. I don't care what they say. All right. So, you guys are still talking about roofs. So we're going to go back to another question. Okay. I heard from people when they buy one, the lot rent will rise within a month, then the next, and so on. So what's the point then? Okay. He's referring to, a mobile home or a manufactured home that's rested in a manufactured home park. And they do raise the rates often. I'm not going to say all the time, but it's very well known and documented that a lot of people will buy these manufactured home parks and intentionally raise the rates of lots, so that way it becomes so unaffordable that those people have to walk away from their homes, whether they have a mortgage or not. So then they get foreclosed on. So then that becomes a property to the park owner itself. They'll end up buying it in foreclosure, or it gets resold in foreclosure. But his intent, or her intent, is to kick those people out. So those people are moving in are going to be renting not only the lot underneath it, but also renting the manufactured home park themselves. So the home itself. So it's a racket. It's predatory, and it's a way that a lot of rich people have gotten a lot richer, and it's a sick way of doing business, but it happens. I've done a video on how people that live in manufactured home parks can gain back their park, and then they become owners, like a co-op in like you would see in a condo association, and they work together to get it done. There's so many, many, many companies that work with it, but there's one in particular that I would consider to talk to, and they'll help you through the whole entire process. So I do want to say thank you, Javier Vidana, for the $20 super chat. That was very kind of you. Javier is also a real estate agent out in Phoenix, Arizona, I believe. I could be wrong. If I'm wrong, I'm sorry. All right, here's another question that is also about manufactured homes. Hi, thanks for sharing all the information. Do I need to put a foundation down for a manufactured home in my lot? Thank you for your response. Okay, so according to any manufactured home company that I've ever spoken to, there's several ways you can put down a foundation. Some people, like here, it's very common to have your manufactured home on blocks or on piers. We flood here. It's very common. Louisiana, South Louisiana is below flood zone. So we flood. So you put it out on piers or blocks. But of course, in other areas that is high and dry, we'll say, they will put down a foundation. You want to have something there to hold it in place because ground shifts, you know? So you don't want to wake up one day and your manufactured home's like this. So it makes most sense to definitely put down some kind of foundation. Let's see if we talked about this one yet. Okay, again, this is about manufactured homes in Florida. So can a house like this be in Florida? And do you think it's safe to stay in when there's a hurricane, or should we go somewhere else? Thank you. Okay, Jenny, now listen, anybody that's in the weather business or anybody that's in the safety business, the first words out of their mouth whenever there's a storm coming is, if you live in a manufactured home, leave. You know, like find another place, go to a shelter. They do, especially the older ones, have a tendency to become more damaged than a typical traditional built home. You know, the wind can get up underneath those if they're not anchored correctly. It's better to be safe than sorry. And definitely I would find another place to stay if there is a hurricane or storm, any kind of storm coming your way. If you hear about a tornado, many manufactured home parks actually even have tornado shelters at the beginning of the park, so that way they're safe. That being said, they have come up with 3 kinds of zones for a manufactured home. There's zone 1, 2, and 3, 3 being the highest. So you want to make sure that the manufactured home that you're purchasing is made for zone 3. I don't even care if you're not buying it in an area that has a high wind zone. Go ahead and buy 3 anyways. And those are going to be anchored and adjusted for those kinds of wind ratings. So definitely purchase that kind. But I would definitely leave. Anytime they tell you to leave, you leave. It's okay. It's okay to be safe. Better to be safe than sorry. Okay, here we go. All right. Jose Murillo. You won't get a home equity loan. This was also on a manufactured home, and he's saying that you can't get a home equity loan on a manufactured home, and that is incorrect. I actually just did a video on that 2 weeks ago, and he specifically says you can get a home equity loan, and you can also refinance. So don't listen to the comment section. Always ask an expert. Anytime you're looking through any of my videos and you feel like you've seen information that's kind of made you nervous, look for an expert. Don't listen to anybody in the comment section. Oh, we got a super chat. All right, let's go to the comments, and I'm going to take this one off because we got a little comment from, let's show. I owe $75,000 on my house and it's worth $250,000. What's the best way to go out about borrowing money for an addition? Thanks. Oh, this is, oh my gosh, why can't I think of that? Eddie, what was the thing that we did? We have a HELOC. It's a HELOC. Get a HELOC. That's what you need to do, because you're basically borrowing the money against yourself and you're not borrowing it from a bank. It's the best way to do it. A HELOC loan. Go to and it's cheap. It's very inexpensive. Most of the time they don't even make you pay for an appraisal. So just go to your local bank, say you want a HELOC, and it's easy peasy. Get a HELOC. Best way to do that for adding an addition to your home. HELOC. 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 Best. I never did see what, let's see what Javier said. I would like a manufactured home or tiny home that could perhaps be able to run a small lab. I need it to be mobile. No questions asked. Thank you. Of course, being in Arizona, we all know what goes on there. some blue stuff. Anybody that's watched Breaking Bad knows what I'm talking about. Of course, Mr. Menendez. Okay, so here we go. We're going to go to the next question. Will the anchors and materials stand up to a hurricane? I live in Florida and it makes me nervous. Okay, so basically that's what we were just saying before is the materials. I know that the manufactured home companies have come a long way since they originally started being certified by HUD in 1976. With that being said, I would always leave your house if there's any kind of hurricane. I don't care how good they say they are. History has shown that, things don't necessarily work out for the best when it comes to a manufactured home. Now, I've actually even seen it literally just saw this because in Lake Charles, I don't know if anybody knows this, in Lake Charles, Louisiana, we had a huge hurricane that came through. No lie, these brick homes looked like a bomb went off. And right next to it was a manufactured home. Granted, it was off its piers, but it was still completely 100% intact. That again, but that is maybe they could be an anomaly. I always say better to be safe than sorry. If you can find a better place to be safer, then just go someplace safer. All right, so let's go to the next question. Bobby, oh my gosh, let's see if I can attempt this last name. Pederzina. Why do manufactured houses have to be leveled so often? Well, this is an easy answer. It doesn't matter. Like here in Louisiana, our ground shifts constantly. We have rainy seasons that makes the ground literally mush. And then we'll have dry seasons that makes it as hard as concrete. So you can imagine over time, anything weighing on a foundation is going to make the foundation move, especially if the ground is soft for a period of time, then it hardens back up. So that's why they have to be leveled so often. Okay. What is the difference between your homes and modular homes? Well, he was commenting on a video about it was about houses, like just regular manufactured houses. They're like a manufactured home is made to HUD's manufacturing codes. A traditional stick-built home is made to local city codes and like a universal code. And modular homes is made to a universal code, which is actually even in many cases higher than traditional stick-built homes. I don't know how I'm going to convince my husband, but our next home, I can guarantee you, will be a modular home. I know how those things are constructed. I mean, literally, they go together, and if they're slightly off, the walls won't go together. So I am 100% getting a modular home, and they appraise the same. A modular home will appraise the same as a traditional stick-built home. They finance the same, they're insured the same, and you'll get the same equity over time. So manufactured home, you can still gain equity, but you will not gain as much over time as you would with a traditional stick-built home or modular home. All right. It looks like we do have some questions coming in here. Here it goes. If I ever moved into a flood zone or a hurricane area, I'm building my house on a pontoon boat. Not a bad idea. Actually, I've seen floating houses. They're actually pretty cool. They do have those here, the floating houses. And another thing people do here is when they build a house, they make almost like a carport underneath. So the garage is at the bottom and then the house is above the garage. So if anything was going to flood, it's just that garage area, and they'll turn that into like a party room. So if anything happens, it just kind of floats down the river. I can only imagine what's at the bottom of some of these rivers with all these floods and stuff. I mean, I'm sure there's like refrigerators and all sorts of party gear at the bottom of some of the canals here in Louisiana. All right. It says, Kristina, do you have many houses with subsistence there? There's a place by me, and they build homes on sand. And in the 70s, and a man there is all over the place. I'm not sure I understand the question. Kristina, do you have many houses with substance there? There is a place by me, and they build homes on the sand in the 70s, and they're man all over the place. You're gonna have to rephrase that question for me. I don't really understand it. I'm sorry. All right. Joel says, How would you find a company that builds modular houses? Okay. Like, this is how I've discovered modular homes. I knew about them before I even started talking about them, but there's you can go to plenty of manufactured home parks, not parks, but dealers here, like where they have all the homes that are sitting out, and they will tell you that you can see any home that you want there, and you can turn it into a modular home where basically you connect those together. Yes, they have those, but I would say, like, 100% just do your research on any manufactured home company that also makes modular homes. There's plenty that do. I just happen to go with the ones that I know. Like, I've done enough research. I've spoken to other people that have gotten these modular homes. They've, lived in them for over 10 years. And so I get, like, real life experience from them, not that they just put it down and they're in love with it. So you just got to do your homework on that. I'm always looking them up, always looking for something different, because I like a more modern build. And the ones that we have here in Louisiana, they're very boxy and traditional looking. And that's not something I would want. Okay. So let's go back to our other questions here. Good question, Jewel. Good question. All right. Here we go. All right. Can this manufactured home be put in a seasonal campsite or made into a seasonal campsite for the fantastic price? Okay, this was about my folding manufactured home. So any mobile, anything that actually has wheels on it and it can be driven down the road, and the boxables, which also, if you decide to do that, you can put your own chassis on it and carry it down the road, can be put in an RV seasonal campsite. So of course you can do that. Now, I do want you to know that anything that's considered a PM RV, which is like a tiny house on wheels, or anything like a PM RV, is considered not for long-term living use. They specifically say it on all their websites. It's meant for recreational use, meaning not long-term. So just keep that in mind. So a lot of those RV parks will tell you you can only stay here for X amount of time, but then you're going to have to leave. They won't allow you to stay there for a long period of time. So you have to be very careful of that if that's something you're interested in doing. If you're thinking of living in an RV park for, 2 years, it may not be possible. So you want to check with those parks beforehand. Okay. If I have a business in a tiny home, don't I get a tax deduction? 100% yes. If you can verify that's the only purpose of this specific tiny home is just to do your work, where you literally have to, like, take pictures and give it to your tax assessor, or not tax assessor, your guy who does your taxes. You give it to him and you show him this is specifically made just for my office, then yes, you can use that 100% for a tax deduction. This little office right here is the only reason I use this is for business. So it is considered a tax deduction because I work from home. Okie dokie. Why can't you use a home equity loan? I don't understand why spending money when you don't have. I don't know what this was to. I don't know why I put that in there. Excuse me. All right. Bummer. People are trying to change the regulations. Are tiny home manufacturers hiring lobbyists? Okay. So this was talking about, there was 5 reasons why I wanted to purchase a tiny home for my daughter. It was actually a PM RV. I put in the title as a tiny manufactured home, but it's a PM RV, which is made to totally different standards. There are many regulations that have been, like, on the books forever. So you can't have a structure in a area that's under 600 square feet, or you can't have another structure on your piece of property unless it's considered a game room or mother-in-law suite. And you have to almost verify that no one's going to live in it. It's just made for an extra space. The lobbyists, or just people over time, have grown to realize that, housing is super expensive, and a lot of areas, especially more progressive areas have decided to adopt the idea of allowing people to put a tiny home on their property so people can live there. There's some areas that are just, they're so expensive. They're like, teachers can't live there and they have to drive like 2 hours just to be able to teach in that area. So like I think places in California and I think a couple in Colorado have loosened their regulations and allowed people to make these like granny cams, or not granny cams, they're granny pads. That's what they call them, a granny pad or granny patio, and then, or a she shed or whatever. So they're like, they could live there 5 days a week and then go home on the weekends to visit their family, which is really sad. They should have some kind of like housing for people at least that are going to be teaching in the area. But you know, it is what it is. It is. Okay. What do tiny home owners do if there's a tornado or strong storms and high winds? Well, there's several things you can do if you have a tiny home. If you're out and about with your tiny home behind you, you know, in a truck, what do they always tell you to do? They tell you to go into an overpass and get yourself as far up into that overpass as possible. So that way, you know, the tornado can go over. They also tell you to get into a ditch and put your hands over your head. If you can find something to put over top of you, you do that. You know, you get into low-lying areas as much as possible. Or you can go to a storm shelter if you're anywhere close to that. You know, I wouldn't stay in your tiny home, just like I wouldn't stay in a manufactured home. They tell you specifically not to do that. So don't test the waters on that. Like, oh, I'm gonna see, I could do it. I'm brave. Give me a break. Nobody's a hero, and you're not going to get your picture in the newspaper because you made it through a tornado in a tiny home. People crack me up. All right, here we go. Why is rent to own or lease to own so commonly asked when selling a mobile home and not stick-built homes? Are people asking for rent to own specifically reason, or should it be something I avoid? Okay, so in many cases, people that are asking for rent to own is that they do not have enough credit to purchase a house. They just don't have enough. They're probably either working minimum wage or 2 minimum wage jobs just to be able to make rent. So they're hoping that that little portion of rent, that little bit that they're putting in, could go towards to actually owning the house. I've only seen in my 13 years of real estate this be successful. And the guy was ever so thankful. He was like thrilled that he was able to purchase his own house. And they did. They tucked a little bit away every single month. So that way at the end, when he was able to actually get a home loan, that all that little bit of money that he had paid for rent to own all those years was put for the down payment for him to purchase it. And he was able to purchase it. It was 5 years of rent to own, and he had over $10,000 in for the down payment that was set aside for the rent to own, and he was able to purchase that from the seller. So that was an exciting story. In a lot of cases it's not, but it's mostly because people just do not have enough credit to make that big payment right at one time. Not only that, I will say this, most mortgage companies will not allow you to get a mortgage that's under $60,000. So you think about that. If you are working a minimum wage job, I mean, you're not going to be able to get a loan that's over 60,000. So it doesn't really pan out for people. So that's why that happens a lot. It happens a lot, but you know, there's always good and bad with every story. I think it's entirely up to you. If you feel like the person that you're working with is a decent person that is really genuinely trying to do better for themselves and genuinely wants to purchase that manufactured home, and they're making every effort, then absolutely do that. But if you're looking at them and your gut says, listen to your gut. Always. That is one thing my dad taught me. If your gut says this ain't right, it ain't right. It ain't right. All right. So Catherine has a little comment here. We're going to throw up here real quick. Okay. So in some areas, tiny homes cannot be advertised as homes, only as RVs, which is PMRVs. That's insane. They have dishwashers and washers and dryers in them. Some apartments don't even have dishwashers and washers and dryers. Okay, so I'm going to explain to you, Catherine, why. Okay, so a PMRV is actually it's a house on wheels, just like an RV would be. And it's not attached to a permanent foundation. And it's not built to the same building codes as a traditional stick-built home or a modular home or even a manufactured home. The regulations for them are pretty lax. So that's why you'll see in many cases they cannot approve them as an actual home because they're not built to specific codes that is regulated. So that's why that comes about. It stinks. It stinks. But anytime you have a home that's on wheels that can still travel down the road and it's not attached to a permanent foundation, they cannot actually count it as a home. You won't see it on any tax records. Now, if it's attached to that foundation and it's not going anywhere, then they can call it a game room. They can call it a granny hut. They can call it anything they want to, a mother-in-law suite, whatever. And then you get taxed on it. Trust me, they want those tax dollars. They would love more than anything for you to attach that to a foundation so they could tax you on it. So, all right. Does anybody else have any other further questions about tiny homes, manufactured homes, or modular homes? I'd love to answer anything you got. Throw them at me. Throw them at me. I do want to tell you guys, I have a video coming out in 2 more weeks. And it's about a tiny home town that Eddie and I visited. And it's a very interesting story all the same about this town. It's the first legal tiny home town in the United States. And the adventure itself was... Well, you're going to have to see. It's 2 weeks. So if you haven't yet, make sure you subscribe so you don't miss that video. It's going to be, it's totally worth it for you to, because it's so unbelievable what happened to Eddie and I. It's like, to this day, I get sick to my stomach because I can't believe what happened. Can they call it an unattached home? I mean, a tiny home, can they call it an unattached home? No. It's a PMRV it's not considered a house. It's considered an RV. So no, they cannot. All right, here we go. Jewel says, is there a way to build a tiny home so it has the same building codes as a regular home? 100%. Absolutely. If you look back into my older videos, there's one that's I talked about. I built a house in 48 minutes, and literally it's a folding modular home. And it is actually built to better standards than traditional stick-built homes. So yes, 100%. PMRVs are also called park model RVs, and they must be 400 square feet or less. Thank you, Adam. That is 100% true. Thank you for sharing that with the rest of the class. Thank you, Adam. And Lawnmower says hi. The commonologist Lawnmower. I hope everybody had a fantastic weekend and you have a fantastic day off tomorrow. I enjoy spending this time with you every Sunday talking about just anything real estate, modular homes, manufactured homes, tiny homes. And if you have any questions that you want me to answer in the next live stream next Sunday, please put them in the comment section of this video, and I will definitely feature your comment or your question in next week's video. If you haven't yet, make sure that you hit the like button. From what I hear, from a past subscriber, it says if you hit the like button, it will increase your home value 75%, he said. I don't know how true that is, but it doesn't hurt to just go ahead and give it a whirl. Try it out. All right, everybody. Happy Labor Day. Enjoy your days off, and I hope you have a fantastic weekend. Thank you, everyone, for spending some time with me. Bye.